Hi, everybody. My name is Trista Harris, and today I'm going to help you understand how foundations can use this four roles framework to create a more equitable future through their work. But first, to give an introduction, I am Trista Harris. I'm a philanthropic futurist, and I run a company called Future Good, which helps both foundations and nonprofits create a better and more equitable future. I have worked in nonprofits and foundations since I was 13. I understand the sector really deeply, both as somebody who works with clients from a variety of organizations that are trying to figure out how to make their organizations more equitable, and also from being somebody that has run organizations and knows the challenge that it is to be able to do that work well. So I think the most important reason to consider these four roles as you think about your work is that often as we are trying to make sure that our foundations are equitable, we really look at that outside part. Our work as a grant maker or a program provider, one, because it's a lot more fun, but two, because it's the place where very easily we can see where we could make a big difference. It isn't the wrong thing, but I think it's important for our insides to match our outsides. So there is this four roles model that was developed by Ron McKinley for the Minnesota Council on Foundations that really lays out why it's important to put equal effort into each of these four roles. It's sort of like a stool or a chair is really uneven if you focus on one and not on others. So the four roles are, as a foundation, you're obviously a funder that's doing grant making in the community. You're a community citizen, that's somebody that has a voice and a platform that you can use to move forward ideas. You're an employer that is both hiring and retaining staff, and you're an economic entity. You have dollars that you're investing and spending. So first, I want you to think about your role as a program provider or as a funder. This is a place where you could do some research to think about if you're equally giving dollars based on demographics and community. Are there some communities that are often missed as you're doing that grant making? There are a ton of resources online, and there's some that you'll receive connected to this program and that are also on your organization's intranet that will help you see different resources that are available to you as you think about being more equitable when it comes to being a program provider. I think one of the critical ways that you can do this is on the grant making side. Think about who those grant reviewers are. Is it your board of directors? Is your board representative of the communities that you're supporting through your grant making? If not, can you develop a grant making committee that is more representative, that can help you make decisions about grant making? I think people that are closest to communities and closest to problems are also closest to solutions. So I want to give you just a minute to think for yourself, where are these places that you can have a larger impact as a program provider? What would success look like in your absolute ideal future if you were really equitable in this space? All right, so your time's up. I hope you had an opportunity to write down some of the things that you could do as a program provider or as a funder to make a more equitable future. The next role is community citizen. So in a foundation, you have a platform and a voice and relationships and connections that have really been built over time. And that social capital is so, so important. So organizationally deciding when you are going to speak up about community issues, when you're going to provide statements, when you are going to use sort of the gravitas of your organization to back an idea, Those are really important things. And I would really, really encourage you to make decisions about when you speak up before situations arise. There is nothing worse than an issue happening in community and everybody sort of circling around, really unsure what to do because you've never had a conversation about what it means to be a community citizen and what it means to use your voice. In this role, you can also do educational advocacy work to help elected officials learn more about what's happening in community. A lot of your grantees are doing that sort of education work, but often it means a lot more when you show up to um, a community meeting or have a conversation or write a letter to an elected official about the impact of decisions that are being made. So I think this is one of the most underutilized roles when it comes to making your foundation more equitable. So I'm going to give you another minute to sort of write down on a piece of paper or in a notebook what success would look like in your role as a community citizen. If it looked exactly the way that you wanted it to, how would that look and how would that feel? So once again, you've got a minute. I appreciate you taking the time to write down these ideas. Often we sort of watch these online trainings and get so busy with the work that we do day to day. And I think taking just those couple minutes to write down some of those top of mind ideas makes it more likely that you're actually going to create change. I think it's also important to envision what things look like if they're fully fixed. We often spend a ton of time loving the problem. Sort of here's all the things that are broken and wrong, and here's my list of a million things to do to sort of move forward. But if you actually start with what it looks like when it's fully fixed, the directions that you take to get there are a lot easier. So that's why we're using this model of really laying out what would it look like if it absolutely worked, and then you could work backwards and see what steps do I have to take to get there. So the next role is as employer. Now, this is a place where a lot of organizations have done a lot of thinking about how to make sure that their staff are representative of community, really making sure that senior leadership also is representative of community. For a lot of organizations, people of color might get stuck in that entry level role. There's a lot of reasons why this happens and many things that you can do as an employer. One, have a wide network that you are sharing job descriptions with. So often we have just a couple of job boards or websites or places that we are placing things, but we really aren't reaching out through networks and relationships. So I think that is a really critical place. If you are using a consulting firm, or a search firm to help you fill a role, tell them that it is important to you that you get candidates of color in the process that make it all the way through to the finalist piece. I often tell search firm consultants, I want to make sure that in that final three, there is at least one equally qualified person of color. So this is not about we're going to pull somebody out that would have been cut normally in the first round because Trista said we need to have a candidate of color. This is about the search firm doing the work and the network building and the conversations to be able to find those candidates. So often they will come to me with that final slate and they don't have any people of color. And I say, you've got to go back. You've got to find, you've got to talk to people. You have to ask, you really have to do the legwork. You are paying these firms to do this work for you, ask for it. There is a tool that they use in football, and I often try to not use sports analogies, but this is one that I will use, called the Rooney Rule. And it is that same thing when they have head coach finalist positions. the expectation is that there is going to be a person of color in that finalist group. The other piece is it isn't just about hiring staff, it's about retaining staff as well. And so as you are looking at data about employees, if you find that employees of color have a much shorter tenure, or they're leaving sooner, or as you do those exit interviews, you're finding out that there's challenges, figure out what those problems are and start to fix it within the organization. What does it mean to create a better culture? What does it mean to be able to retain staff of color and diverse staff in your organization? The other piece that I'll say is data is really the most important thing. So really understanding both in that candidate pipeline, where are you losing candidates of color, and in the employee pipeline, when are people leaving the organization? It helps you to get a clearer picture of where some challenges might be in your organizational culture, or in your processes, or in your networks. There's a lot of places where we can have challenges. So really dig in deep to that data to figure out where you stand, and then set goals that are tied to that. So I'd love for you again to think about what success looks like in your role as an employer as you're trying to create a more equitable future. So you've got a minute again. All right, time's up. Next, we're going to move to economic entities. This is the area that really I just love, because I think you can have a huge impact. And this is the place where you can really pull in lots of your staff members. So there are two places where foundations should pay the most attention. One is your endowment. So where are you investing dollars, and do those dollars match your mission and the change that you're trying to create in the world? So mission and program related investing is an idea that's been around the sector for a very, very long time, but is growing so much. And we are seeing more foundations that are moving to 100% mission and program related invested. I think that that trend is only going to grow. And at some point in the very near future, I think that our finance and investment committees are going to equally balance fiduciary responsibility and mission responsibility. So you want to make sure that just 5% of your assets on the grant making side aren't the only thing that is moving forward your mission. Got all these resources and dollars. Could they be used for affordable housing loans? Could they be used for small business loans for people of color owned businesses to help them have the capital to be able to expand? Really, foundations have an amazing pool of resources that I think are 100% underutilized in this moment. And so I think this is a place where we need to see what that equity frame looks like. For foundations that are still in the stock market and that sort of thing, shareholder advocacy is an important role that I think is often underutilized in the field. And so ask the companies that you're invested in what their diversity, equity, and inclusion policies look like. Ask them what their diverse spend rate is. Ask them who's on their board of directors, who gets those seats and who has a say, and really advocate for those companies to be representative as well. This is the same thing as a community citizen. You have an important platform and voice, use it to move forward these ideas. The other place is just your spending. So within organizations, a lot of staff have spending authority. And so you can create a diverse vendor policy. There's lots of examples of that online. There's some in the packet that I'm going to be giving you as well. These policies help you as an organization, one, set that it's a priority, To set a goal, many organizations that I work with to develop these policies set a floor of 10 to 20% of total spending should be with people of color owned businesses. There are a number of organizations that have database and lists, and businesses led by people of color get certified by different agencies and that sort of thing. So you can look through the databases and find these people of color owned businesses, or you can start to survey your current vendors and understand who owns those businesses and what's the racial makeup of their senior leadership team. Just starting to have those conversations and questions, asking them if they have diversity policies within their own organization starts to change practice throughout the field. Really speak with those dollars. It makes a huge difference. When I used to run the Minnesota Council on Foundations, we set our goal about spending with diverse vendors, and the easiest place to do it was with our catering budget, because most of the staff were hosting events, lots of us were using caterers, and so we said, let's build a list, let's figure out who is in this space, and let's make sure that these companies are really visible when we have events with our members. So we asked them to bring brochures and menus and copies of their business cards. And for a number of those businesses, they expand significantly just from that visibility. And we're able to hire new people to work in the organization. We're much more financially stable for many of them, where it was sort of a side business became their core work. And I think that's the sort of transformation that happens when you are focused and really thoughtful about your impact and how to make sure that that impact creates a more equitable future. So I'm going to have you jump right back in again. What does success look like as in your role as an economic entity? So write down those ideas, think about what it looks like if it's fully fixed. Time's up. So I hope that you've had the opportunity to just get the sort of juices flowing and starting to think about new ways that you can look at your four roles as an organization. Think about the places where maybe it was harder to come up with some ideas and spend a little bit more time digging deeper. And if there's places that you're already doing great at this, fantastic. Make sure that it is built into your policies and practices so that it lasts long into the organization's future. Really build that infrastructure so that every decision that you make, it's easier and easier to make sure that those decisions are more equitable. If you'd like to learn more about this four roles framework or how to think about creating a more equitable future through a systems change effort within your foundation, you can reach out at tristaharris.org. I've got some additional tools and resources that are available there, or you can reach out to me directly and I can help you brainstorm. Thanks so much for all you do to create a better future.